Hello, I'm Fred McNeil, and thank you for watching QAC TV 7. We started a new show about 6 months ago called Thank You for Serving. There's about 3,500 veterans who live in Queen Anne's County, and our goal is to get all 35 of them on here, all right? And I've got my good man, Paul. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Paul Harar. I moved to Queenstown, Maryland about a year ago and have been busy settling in and enjoying the area.
And we're glad you're in Queen Anne's County. This is God's gift to us, all right? Now, Paul, let's go way back. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Chicago, and as a young one, 2 years old, I moved to a small town outside of Chicago until I went to high school.
I used to, believe it or not, I used to coach at Notre Dame, and a big trip would be go to, but it was a 2 hour, an hour, I forget what it was, from South Bend to Chicago. I used to go to Wheaton, Illinois. Yeah, and that was, I had friends that lived there. Chicago, magnificent city. Big though, big.
Go ahead. No,
how'd you deal with the bigness of Chicago?
Well, because I was in a small town and I lived in a very rural area, I had no neighbors except the cemetery across the street and a golf course on the other 3 sides around me.
Now, I got to ask you, Cubbies or White Sox? Who'd you like?
White Sox.
Oh, okay, you're White Sox fans, okay. Now, so got to the outskirts of Chicago, high school, middle school, junior high there? Or no?
No. So after about, when I went into 7th grade, I moved into the city.
Okay, back into Chicago.
Into Chicago, and I went to a public, not a middle school, grammar school at the time, and a public high school.
Now this is in the 50s?
In Chicago.
Okay, in Chicago, right.
And this was in the 60s.
Oh, 60s, okay, early 60s, okay.
Yep.
Now Chicago in the 60s, good place? Enjoyed it?
Well, it was very, very interesting, and I went to, I hate to get too personal here,
okay.
but I went to because of my neighbors convinced my parents to send me to the local public school. That's how I did that.
Okay.
But it was very, I went to a high school that was in the process of being desegregated.
Okay.
So I would say we had
went through all the battles of the 60s.
Of the 60s.
Yes.
But at the same time, the school was excellent.
Okay.
And the integration was excellent.
So it worked well.
It did, because it opened your mind up to a broader perspective of public life.
Good. Now, when you were in high school, sports guy, a theater guy?
Well, that's an interesting subject in that I wasn't, because of my earlier background in the middle of nowhere, and my parents both worked in the city, I learned how to do things by myself, and that didn't mean sports after school, because I had no way to do that. I had to take the bus to my elementary school and come home on the bus, which prohibited any kind of sports activity.
So you were school and home.
At the same time, when I went to high school, then to answer your question, I started a landscaping business.
Oh, in high school?
In high school.
Good for you.
And I cut maybe 12 to 15 lawns a week and shoveled the snow in Chicago in the wintertime.
You're the richest man in your high school, right?
Well, I made good money. Let's just put it that way, right?
Good for you.
But what made that very interesting to continue the conversation on was one of my patrons was an ex-Cook County in Chicago treasurer.
Okay, so this is the Mayor Daley era, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he stopped me one time when I was doing the landscaping work at his house, and he said, "Paul, you have a few things going for you. Have you ever thought about going to an academy?"
All right.
Meanwhile, all my friends in high school were going to the University of Illinois at Champaign and doing the fraternity sorority thing and just having a grand time doing it. So I got a college catalog from the Naval Academy in the mail. And I looked through the pictures in the book, and this was different than going
The University of Illinois.
University of Illinois. Well, why don't we try something different?
Good for you. Good for
Well,
you.
going back to our earlier discussion, the Naval Academy, or the academies in general, attract a lot of the people that are sports enthusiasts,
Right.
from lacrosse to soccer, baseball,
Football,
football,
basketball,
all
whatever,
that. But my background was pushing a lawnmower. So over the next year process of entry with the physicals and all the tests that you have to take, I was actually on a standby list because I wear glasses, and they all wanted.
In the old days, you couldn't even get it, right? No flight
Right,
school or anything. Yes.
right. So you couldn't be a pilot or something like that because you wore glasses. And at the time, I wasn't sure whether I should be going to what academy. But the Naval Academy was, I always liked boats, so that's where I
Natural
ended
choice.
up there, and
What year did you start?
in the June of, so I got the appointment in June 2nd of 1971,
Oh, okay. 70s.
and I reported there on June 30th of 1971.
So you're right in the middle of the Vietnam War.
Right, so
Okay.
I already got accepted down at Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, but then I got this, and I said, well,
Give it a shot.
give it a shot.
So how were your 4 years at the Naval Academy?
Well, going back to what we just said about the physical aspects, needless to say, I never ran a mile in my life until I went there, nor I did the number of push-ups and sit-ups
welcome
and
to the Army,
obstacle
Navy.
course and all
Okay.
that. So for that part, I was challenged.
Okay, okay. Now, everyone in the Naval Academy engineering degree, am I
No.
correct? No.
No,
Okay.
no, no. So back in the, I don't know, the late 50s, they had a problem with people going to the school after, and then Vietnam. So they changed the subjects at the Naval Academy to add non-engineering
Oh,
curriculum.
so you had some other classes.
With the Bachelor of Science degree, the ultimate upon degree.
Okay.
So they modified it so you could be a history major, an Italian major
At the academy.
at the academy. However, did you still end up taking calculus, electrical engineering,
All the tough
weapons
courses.
engineering
God help.
under this same guidance of history
Okay.
or English?
Well, I used to run the Zamboni in Dogwood Hall.
Really?
Yes, where you had
See?
the snack bar. I was running around in circles.
You were, and I was doing my my push-ups and sit-ups
Okay.
there. None of the snack bar stuff. That's
Right.
for the guests.
But you had a good experience.
It was hard.
Okay, what's hard? Okay.
It was hard. I mean,
the military training, right? The military routine
and
is difficult.
and what most people don't have a clue on is, let's stop and move up to current times. I happened to be in Annapolis this past weekend, and I had a lunch and whatever, and I noticed there were freshmen known as plebes there in town.
You weren't allowed to go in town, were you?
Well, this was what I learned just yesterday. This was Parents' Weekend.
Oh, all right.
So you send your child off to the Naval Academy in the end of June, and then they're there till this summer doing plebe summer.
Right.
And then there's Parents' Weekend where the parents
You're
come
allowed to come on campus.
to come and take their kid out for the afternoon on Saturday. And this is what this past weekend
Oh, wow.
was. And I was wondering why there were so many
What are you
plebes
doing here?
everywhere.
Yeah.
What are they doing out?
Now you graduate from the academy.
Right.
You had, as I understand, you had your
So then I was going to be, obviously, the Naval Academy is for ship or plane drivers. It's not for chaplains or
No,
supply corps officers or
Okay.
people like that. This is for people that are going to serve in the armed services in a arm's way. So my actual background was in business and engineering, and I did fine academically. So one lieutenant came into my room, stateroom, after my beginning of my senior year. Paul, you have a great academic record. You know, they're going to make all these major surface ships nuclear powered, and submarines all are, why would you not want to be
The nuclear navy.
in the nuclear navy? And this was still under strict control of Hyman Rickover,
Okay.
the admiral.
Okay, who's a legend.
And
Everyone knows Rickover.
everybody knows him.
Rickover.
So how could you say no?
No.
And all I could do was, so you have to go to a special interview where you're interviewed
in
by other engineers,
Okay.
and then interview with Admiral Rickover.
You actually, as a naval midshipman, went to Rickover.
Correct.
Now, what was that experience
Well,
like?
there's some stories,
Go
and I'll
ahead.
mention that for the presentation here. So he has a way of
Intimidating the heck out of you, right?
intimidating the people, and there's one other officer in the room with you sitting in front of him,
Mm.
in front of his desk, and there's all kind of stories about what people do or why would you want to do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
You know, one story that I liked is, I heard you're getting married after you graduate here. If you want to be part of my Navy,
No, man.
call your girlfriend up
Yeah.
and tell her the wedding's off for another year. And
Rickover says it.
that's right. Or better yet, fun one was, make me mad. So one of these midshipmen, behind Rickover's desk is another little credenza with the model Nautilus,
Nuclear submarine.
nuclear,
yeah.
a first nuclear submarine that there's a big history on how Rickover designed all this and did this. He went up to the submarine, smashed it with his fist.
Rickover did.
No,
Oh, the midshipman.
the midshipman
Oh,
did.
Lord.
So of course he got thrown out of the room immediately, as you imagine.
Now, Rickover, he wasn't a big man. Am I correct?
No,
Am I wrong?
small man.
That's what I thought.
Very
Yeah.
small.
Was he 4-star? How many stars?
Oh, he was. Well, there's a book out there by Polmar and Allen on Rickover
Right.
that if you want to learn about a man that did amazing things in the United States in this process, it's a wonderful book, and how he was somewhat ostracized at the Naval Academy.
Oh, while he was there, he was ostracized.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? Because what?
His ethnic background.
Oh, okay.
This book is very, very interesting, and for many years, he didn't serve to benefit the Navy. He served against the Congress, for the Congress and the Senate
Okay.
of the United States.
He was a favorite of senators and congressmen, correct? Yes.
So when he needed something done in the Navy, he went to them.
Okay.
And to answer your question that you said, he stayed in the Navy for over 30
Much longer,
years.
much longer, yes.
And he was promoted because
His connections to
his
Congress.
political interests and efforts, which are not trivial.
Okay, so he was a powerful man, right?
He was, and he served because of his efforts to serve with the Senate and the Congress. And he was somewhat anti-Navy because they were a club-like, and he wasn't
A
part of
member
that club.
Okay, he was his own club.
He
correct?
was his. Oh, that's absolutely
the
correct.
Nuclear Navy Rickover Club.
The Nuclear Navy Rickover Club,
Yeah.
and he ran the program, every bit of it.
Okay. Now, how did he treat you? How you?
Well, it was somewhat anticlimactic.
Yeah, okay.
Right? I had to do these other interviews. I don't think I was in there 10 minutes.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, you're done. Goodbye.
Really?
So I just walked out.
He's
and
very brisk.
What was kind of fun was there were 26 of us from the Naval Academy that went the day to this interview.
Okay. How many of you got in?
14.
14 out of the 26.
Right? And I had a company man of mine that was a nuclear engineer there.
He didn't get in?
Didn't get in.
So what, so you graduate from the academy.
Right.
You're immediately sent to the nuclear
Well,
Navy?
that's
No.
because I wasn't the heavy-duty nuclear engineer.
Okay.
I had to spend a couple more months at the Naval Academy after I graduated studying
get
advanced
you up to par.
calculus and heat
Okay.
transfer before I went to nuclear power school.
Okay. Now, where was that when you? So when
Well,
you?
that's a good question because it goes back to what I just said. Because of his wants to do things his way,
Right.
he opened nuclear power school, which is all academic, heat transfer, nuclear physics, etc., at a ex-women's barracks in Bainbridge, Maryland.
For real? Okay, that's his own academy, so to speak.
His own, for all academic there, his own thing where we lived and went to school
Probably
there.
pretty difficult academically, yes?
Yeah,
yes,
very
it was.
much so.
But-
And especially for me,
Okay, well, what?
because I didn't have the advanced calculus and all that, physics.
50% washout rate or less
No,
than
but
that?
I have one more story
No,
that
go,
I
go.
don't know how much time we
We
have
got plenty
here.
of
One
time.
more story.
I got plenty. I got
But
20 minutes.
There's a lot of Naval Academy people, there's OCS people, there's ROTC people that have to go through this same
Right.
interview process. The number one person in the class, we have tests on Fridays.
Really? Every Friday you had
Tests on what we did, the homework and learn. This is a full-time school. It's not
No, no
3
part,
hours a
okay.
day or
Now, if you didn't pass test, you're out?
Well, no.
No.
He got caught.
Cheating? Really? Oh, Lord.
Somehow they walked around the room taking the tests.
And he's cheating.
Never saw him again.
Now, out of the Navy completely? you
No,
think?
I don't know.
Oh, no. Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
And you never saw him?
Never saw him again.
So you go through this special school.
Then after that, after this 6 months, you go to another 6 months when they were first building these nuclear power plants. They built them on shore and tested them.
Before they put him in the ship?
Right.
Okay.
So they're out in Idaho and in New York.
Oh, all over the
and
country, yeah.
in Connecticut. But they were kind of Atomic Energy Commission facilities,
Okay.
but they were duplicate submarine plants at these.
Okay.
So you got sent there and you had to do all the different watch stations and go to a short school on orientation, and then you spend your hours starting up shutdowns, running drills
Okay.
on these shore-based
So practice facilities
practice
basically for when you
facility
get out there. Okay.
that some case it duplicates what's
What's on a
already
ship.
out on a ship.
Was that difficult?
So, well, I have because I told you I was in pushing a lawnmower and all that. For me,
You were all right with it?
yeah,
Okay.
that was
Okay. And
hands-on.
that was 6 months.
That was 6 months.
At the end of the 6 months,
Then you get sent to, well, if you're going to submarines, you go to submarine school in New
Okay.
London, Connecticut,
and that's where you went.
and I went there.
Okay. Now, what was the whole submarine stuff like? When you crossed the bridge on the way to Boston, is it 95? You look over, you can see, I believe.
Yeah, well, they go to New London.
New London,
New
Connecticut.
London,
Yeah.
Connecticut.
Okay.
That's where that is. So you go there for 3 months, and then you go right to your ship.
Okay. Now, what was your first ship?
I was on a ballistic missile submarine.
Oh, you went big time immediately.
Right.
Now you're a Lieutenant JG, or what are you?
Yeah, I was
Lieutenant.
no, ensign, because that's
ensign,
2
ensign.
years.
Yeah, okay.
But I became a lieutenant junior grade
Okay.
shortly thereafter
Now,
on the ship.
what's a role of a Lieutenant JG or an ensign?
Well,
on
wait a
ship?
minute. So
Oh,
this
good.
is how you're a nuke
Okay.
on a submarine.
Right.
And you're attached to the engineering department. So you work for the chief engineer, and you're a division officer,
Now, what rank would a chief engineer be?
a lieutenant commander.
Oh, okay. So this is fairly up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So what we did there is my first job was an electrical officer.
Which means
All the electrics on the ship.
So
the
you're in charge
generators,
of all of it?
You're in charge of the maintenance, the
Okay.
training of the sailors,
oh, wow.
running
Pretty
that.
big responsibility.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yep, but so there's not charging the batteries, maintaining all this stuff. Then I went on to become the reactor controls division officer.
You're actually
controlling all the reactor plant electronics and setbacks and
Now,
all that.
give an old Army guy a sense of size. Let's look at our studio. Are we talking about a nuclear? How many times?
well, wait a minute. That's one more fun story. When
go,
you
go.
first get to the ship,
Right.
and my ship was based out of Holy Loch, Scotland. It was based out of Charleston, but it was put in Holy Loch.
Okay.
And a ballistic missile submarine has 2 crews to allow the ship to go to sea
24/7.
all year round rather than just 6 months and
Right.
in port 6 months. So I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, but the ship was in Holy Loch, Scotland, where it was attached to a tender where you did the repairs, outfitted out to go back to sea and take it to sea.
Okay.
And then you come back, get relieved by the gold crew or the blue crew,
Okay, so
depending
you
on
alternate crews.
cruise, and the other crew flies over there, and in 3 days you say, it's yours.
Now, how long, again, for an Army guy, how long are you underneath the sea?
Well,
Or does that depend?
no, that's about 70 days.
70, so 2 months plus.
Oh, yeah. So for one of the patrols, I didn't see the sun. Even I was driving the ship, we would come up for making sure we were at the right location
Right.
at night.
Okay, by the stars,
And-
celestial navigation, or?
Well, we could talk about that too.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see the sun for 60 days.
2 months without the sun.
Without the sun, seeing the sun.
Couldn't do it. Again, I have to ask you a question as an Army
Yeah.
guy. In a nuclear submarine, I realize the size is amazing, but do you feel claustrophobic at all? No.
Well, let's call
Keep
attention
going.
to that. So we have this room here,
All right.
and when after those, you get to the ship, you fly there from Charleston to Scotland.
Right.
You get down to the ship, and you go on the ship, and it's, maybe 25, 30 feet wide.
25, 30 feet
Wide. So when you get down there, it's like, am I really going to live here?
Yeah, I know. I mean,
And
I couldn't
what-
do it.
And what's kind of interesting, it takes about 3 or 4 days
To adjust?
for your mind to, well, I guess it ain't so bad. We'll figure this
Kind of
out.
like being in a plane almost, in terms of
Yeah,
your mind
but
just gets used to that
You get
cabin.
used to that, and then you live on board. So this becomes your home,
Okay.
away from home in this quarters.
And just psychologically, you do it.
You would do it.
Would an ensign have his own room, or did you share a room?
You
No.
have, there's 3 bunks, middle, lower, and upper,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 desks.
And so you're sharing. Now, I see pictures in movies, I know it doesn't count, guys jogging around the submarine. Is that true? Or
No.
No, okay. Thank you for clearing
Now,
that up.
I'm away from the business for a
You can tell,
while.
yes.
So, but no.
No,
You're
okay.
lucky you had a small weight area in the missile compartment
Where you could work out if you
where
wanted
you could do some working out with some weights.
Okay. Now, was there obviously a mental aspect to it, but was there a workout? Everyone had to work out every day? Or?
No.
No, it was an individual choice like all soldiers or sailors.
Well, you have to understand that besides being operating, so you're a reactor operator, you're running the reactor as the officer in charge, or the electrical person, or work in the upper level, or the auxiliary room where you make the oxygen, you clean the air.
How long was the shift? Did you do 12-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts?
No. 8-hour shifts.
8 hours. So a regular work day, but it could be anywhere in the clock. In terms of-
Correct.
Okay.
And maybe the midship,
Okay.
where you would go on at 11:30
All right, and go.
and
6
go
or
to all
7 hours.
night, right?
Now, besides work, what did you do? You worked and you slept and you
Well,
showered
a
and you
few other
shaved.
little fun notes.
Okay.
Now, on a ballistic missile submarine, your job is to remain hidden. So you're given a box where you're underwater and you have to be in a box.
Okay.
No one knows
Who
where
you are,
you
where you
are
are.
or where you are, except people at the Pentagon or wherever they figured
Right,
that out.
right.
In that box is that ship.
Okay.
And you stay quiet and hidden, and the boxes move, so you
Right,
have to move and do those sort of things.
Do you have a sense of motion in the submarine?
Yeah,
Oh, you do?
well, a little bit.
A little bit.
The close, well, that's very interesting. Let's just finish the box up.
Please.
So what's kind of interesting is that, well, how do people know
Where
you are? You're alive or not? They don't.
So are there, again, are there transmissions constantly going out?
No.
No, because you have to maintain that
You're
silence.
totally hidden underwater in that box for maybe 2-3 weeks, and then you get
Who
assigned
knows?
another box.
Who on the submarine knows where you are as a
The
captain?
navigator.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you plot that out. I mean, you know where you're at,
yeah.
but the rest of the world doesn't.
Okay. Would you know, again, you're going to go from Scotland to X and
Wherever.
back? Oh, you do know that? Or you don't?
Well, we do, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you know.
You gotta know how to navigate and
Okay.
go to get to that box.
Okay, so you have a sense
The
where the
box could be in the northern Atlantic if you're out in the Atlantic. It could be in the Mediterranean. It could be the South Atlantic. Could be closer to the East Coast. I mean, it all depends on your assignment. But I think the point that I want to call attention to that maybe I glanced over is you don't communicate.
Okay, nothing.
Nothing.
No,
Now,
wife's
your
girlfriend.
nothing. So on the other side, before you leave, you get 6 pieces of paper with 40 words each. Not with words on it that
But
you
you can
give
put 40 words.
to your mother, your wife,
Okay.
the kids,
Okay.
whoever, and they send that in.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Now, obviously, to launch ballistic missiles, you have to be able to know if you're going to launch, you got to launch within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And when you're in your box, you have to be receiving communication in case you have to launch.
Yes, right.
So you have to be 100% receiving communications.
At all times.
All the
At
time.
Now,
So-
teletype, or what are you allowed to say? What,
Well, at the time, I don't know what they do today.
Yeah.
But it was teletype, and
Okay.
it was just a radio transmission
Okay.
that ships got, and everybody gets all over the world. But so to make that happen, you have to float an antenna.
on the
So
surface?
for a long time, it was floating an antenna, which picked up these signals
Oh, okay.
from the stern of the ship, and it
Okay.
came down and worked the radios. So from a personal point of view, you got all the box scores, the sports scores,
Okay.
all the radio traffic from the Navy and everything, all the news,
Right.
but you didn't transmit
Anything back?
anything back.
Anything back?
Okay? So you would get woken up in the middle of the night, if that's
a
what it
letter,
was.
a note.
Here's your 40-minute nose from the wife.
Okay.
You know,
Now, how was let me just jump around.
Yeah.
How was the food on a sub?
pretty good.
Oh, was good. Okay.
yeah.
Officers mess, enlisted mess?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
And,
a regular
So
menu.
during those 30 days of recovery, you had to stock up. And what was kind of fun is you only got eggs go bad.
Yes.
So you only could bring on eggs for
So many days.
maybe for 3 weeks, and then
Okay.
you were out of eggs.
Now, how would you get resupplied?
During those 30 days,
Oh.
next to the tender,
Okay.
part of the efforts
You'd
would
meet
be
somebody.
to have load-out days
Okay.
where people stood around and it came down and
How often was a loadout then?
how.
How often? I mean, would you have it, if you're down there 60 days, do you resupply every 30 days?
No, never.
Oh, never. Okay.
You're out there the whole
That's
time.
it. That's it.
That's it.
I'm glad I went in the
So-
Army. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it.
Oh, after a while, you're out of stuff.
Yes,
Right?
okay.
And that's
That's the way it is.
the way it is.
Now, were there PXs on the? That sounds silly, but enlisted guys
No.
get no. Okay.
No.
Was there any? Like on an aircraft carrier, don't they have PXs and TV stations and all this nonsense?
No.
Oh, they don't. Okay. So
Now, I don't know what they do today. but
That's
clearly-
Hollywood. That might be Hollywood. Remember my
Yeah,
Hollywood
none of
guy.
that. None of
Okay.
that. No.
So how long were you on that particular duty?
I made 6 patrols.
Oh, 6. Okay. Now, over how many years would that have been?
Well, two patrols a year.
Oh, so
That's 3 years.
that was 3 years.
you know.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure I was going to stay in, so after that, doing that, well, Paul, I got a job for you. I was thinking about maybe getting out.
Okay.
I qualified during the 3 years as a chief engineer. That's
Right.
more academic work, more interviews with Rick
Okay.
over to go back now and be the chief engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So for a while there, I got sent to the Pittsburgh as a pre-commissioning the chief engineer. After that, they sent me I was thinking about getting out, so I was in recruiting duty
Oh, really?
for future nuclear officers
Oh, that'd be
in the
interesting.
Midwest.
Oh, wow. So you're
Where
talking
you-
about the Purdue University
Exactly.
guys, the big heads. The
Where
big
you
ones.
would go to schools, Purdue,
Mm-hmm,
or talk to the physics club or the electrical engineering, make presentations.
Okay.
And then people that expressed interest in being nuke, you would interview them. You would kind of help them, because they have to go to Washington too,
Do the same thing.
do the same thing and get interviewed. And that's not a simple interview. They
No.
ask you academic questions and help me understand what you're going to, how this works.
Contribute, yeah, okay.
Contribute, and then interview with Admiral Rickover. So I would go with them to,
The interviews.
not to the interview
Oh.
itself, but escort them
Escort them.
to Washington to do
Okay,
this interview.
okay. That was pretty good duty, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad.
Traveling all over the Midwest
yeah.
and making these presentations.
Yeah, young, smart men and women, or men at that time, probably. Yeah.
Right. And then what was kind of fun was obviously when a ballistic missile submarine comes out of overhaul, they want to make sure that it actually can launch missiles.
Okay.
So they take it off of Port Canaveral, you put it out to sea, and you launch
Oh, actually launched a
a
missile, with
missile.
a non-nuke.
a non-nuke missile to make sure everything is working
Working.
correctly. Well, to encourage professors to encourage the nuclear navy, they would invite
Oh, to watch this.
pressure.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they
pretty cool.
put you on a charter boat.
Oh, that'd be
They
fun.
take you out to sea
And watch this thing come out of
and
the
watch
water.
watch this missile
Oh,
get
yeah.
launched from this
Oh,
submarine.
that'd be interesting.
Right?
Yeah,
right. To encourage them to
join.
have you thought about, their students? Anyway, that was
It was
somewhat.
good. It was good. Now look, we're about to run out of time.
Okay.
But what we'll do a part 2 sometime in the future, right?
All right, because this is just the beginning.
Oh, I know. I can see you can go on forever, which
I
is
mean,
good.
I got 23 years
Of stories.
of stories here,
Well, what
so
we'll
this
do
was
is,
young
in about another
time.
month, we'll get you back, because I still am amazed how you can stay underwater for 60 days without seeing the sun. I couldn't do it. I have to see the sun.
One more quick story.
Go ahead, go
One
ahead.
more. So obviously, in the early days of this program, they had doctors on board. People
Okay.
get sick,
Of course.
right?
Sore throats, breaking
All
a leg.
kinds
yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
So they learned that it wasn't worth to have a medical doctor on the ship.
Okay.
So they put corpsmen on the
Oh,
ship.
Lord, yes. Okay.
So to tie the story together, what happens? Well, I got all kind of stories with
Yes.
this corpsman,
Yeah.
but one of the most interesting one was, what if you had an appendicitis?
I was going to ask you, is a corpsman going to operate on you?
Exactly, because in the wardroom where the officers eat, the table that you eat at,
Could be an operating
it
table.
is an operating room. They have special lights in there that you can, when the doctors were there, you could operate on this, but no more. Anyway, so they put the corpsman on, and did we have an appendicitis or a corpsman that?
Yeah.
So that's one of the few times during the night sometime you could send, we have an emergency
Signal.
signal.
Okay, saying, look at what is this guy supposed to do?
Now,
Did he use a butter knife? What's that?
so they then take you off of patrol, they tell you where to go,
Okay.
and a helicopter comes and lowers a hook. You put this person in a metal
Oh,
basket.
get him up.
You bring it up to the surface. They attach the hook onto the metal basket
Bring 'em up.
and haul them up. All right? Now, I happened to be driving the ship the time when we had one of
Had to
these.
do
So
that.
you had to surface the ship, put the person in the basket. So
You have
then
to organize this whole thing. Yeah.
so one of the fun story was we were off of the Azores and the beach there. We had to put the submarine up, hauled off the person, submerged the ship then. And so I was driving the ship only think you think I wasn't enjoying the ladies on the beach. So instead of looking where the ship is
You
going
walk
in
on
the
the
middle of nowhere, ball!
The Navy's a good deal, right? A good
Ball!
deal.
We're going that way, not that way.
Well, Paul, how about
Thank you.
We're going to have you back for round 2 in about a month or so, right? Thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you.
I got 26 more years of stories coming, right?
You do.
Thank you. My name's Fred McNeil. Thank you for watching QAC TV 7. My time's up. Thank you for your time. We're going to see you next time, and thank you for all the veterans out there for serving.
Amen.
Was that too bad? That wasn't too bad. Well,